Hey, welcome back to theclinicaltrialsguru.com, also theclinicaltrials.guru. Very proud I got that domain name recently. Quick video here about can you, as a researcher, whether you're a doctor, a PI, sub-I, study coordinator, research clinic owner, patient recruiter, um, CRA, although they don't necessarily fall under this category, but I think they do internally. Can you own stock in a publicly traded company that you are conducting a study for? So let's say you're conducting a study for Pfizer. And can you own Pfizer stock? And can you still do research if you own that stock? The answer is yes. And there are financial disclosure forms when you start any trial. So anyone who's listed on the 1572 form, which is the most important form in clinical research, at least from a regulatory perspective, the 1572 form. Anyone who's listed on that form needs to sign a financial disclosure form. This is done at study startup and it's done on an ongoing basis. The purpose of this form is to disclose whether you own or have financial interest in the sponsor, the study sponsor. And generally, you check either yes or no. Now, you only need to check yes for the most part on 99% of forms that I've seen. You check yes if you have greater than $50,000 invested in that company stock. So if you own $49,000 in Pfizer stock, you can check no. If you, however, own $49,000 of Pfizer stock at the start of the study, and then during an interim IRB review, your stock went up, you should send another financial disclosure form. Um, and this time you would have to check yes, because your portfolio now increased, so you own more than 50,000. So that's generally the threshold is $50,000. It sounds like a lot, but to some of these PIs and some of these research clinic owners, it's actually not that much. The idea is they want to make sure that you're not manipulating the data so that you profit. So should there ever be an audit by the FDA, or in that case, when you're dealing with publicly traded companies, probably the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, they can actually look at that too. And don't try anything silly like insider trading, because there have been cases of doctors. This just happened recently in California. There was a study being done by a biotech company, I think, and there was only one site that the biotech company was using, and it was this site in California. And the investigators knew that the drug wasn't working, so they sold a bunch of their stock before the company released the news to the public that the drug was not working. So they obviously didn't lose their investment, but the other investors did, and they didn't have a fair chance. Um, they didn't have an equal chance as investors of saving their own money because they're not involved with the study. So the SEC got involved. They fined these doctors. I believe they're banned from doing research, so there's very serious penalties that come along with that. And there is a gray line and a fine line between what's considered insider trading and what's not, especially when you're dealing with some of these smaller stocks. Like a lot of biotech companies are doing trials. I own some stock, full disclosure, in some biotech companies. Um, and it could get kind of tricky as far as what could be considered insider trading and what's not. I go by the information that is publicly available. I generally don't try to make my own conclusions about whether a drug's working or not, because usually these studies are done at many different sites. I've never had the case where I've had a study done at just one of my sites. These studies are usually done at like 50 or 100 different sites. So to try to draw conclusions from your own anecdotal evidence that you've seen in your clinic is probably not going to work. It's not going to help you out very much. Your sample size is just not big enough. But do be careful, because the SEC could watch and they could potentially try to get you for insider trading at some point, especially if you're dealing with a lot of money. So in short, the answer is yes, you can own stock. Yes, you can make good money buying biotechs or other drug stocks, but specifically biotechs because they're very volatile. And especially this year in 2014, the two biotechs that I bought, their stocks are extremely volatile. So I get in and out, and that has nothing to do really with the studies we're conducting. It just has to do with their company events and news that they bring out and the market in general. Because these biotechs, because they're so volatile, when the market has a bullish day, when the market is doing well, these biotechs usually jump up and have greater gains than the market. And conversely, when the market is doing very bad, these drug stocks or biotech stocks tank. So it's good for trading. I've held some long term, but not much longer than a year or two. I generally like the biotechs to just get in and out, and I hold positions for a few months and then I'll get out. But in short, the answer is yes, you can own stock in the drug companies that you do studies with. So don't let that stop you from wanting to do clinical trial, wanting to participate in a research study, especially if you're a doctor. But there are forms and there are regulations you have to follow, and be careful about the insider trading because the SEC is not playing games, and neither is the FDA when it comes to these kind of things. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully that answers your question. Let me know. And no, I will not give stock tips because I'm not a stockbroker. I want to give a shout out to my clinical trial group producers, South Coast Clinical Trials, Sarah Elizabeth Siegler, Resolve Research Solutions, Accurate Clinical Trials, PTNR, Earnhardt Clinical Research, Tradestone LLC, Breakthrough Clinical Trials, Kulkarni Law Firm, Biopharm Systems, Zymewire, Mosio, St. Paul Medical Research Center, Investigator Research Group LLC, Phlebotomy Services, Atria Clinical Research Management, Clinexus Research LLC, Coastal Connecticut Research LLC. Thank you very much for checking out theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Take care.